Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. I know that there's a lot of things you guys could be doing, so I'm really excited that Dallisa invited me here to talk specifically about limiting beliefs. I just want to make sure we can all share and see.
Yeah, I think there's so much to be said about limiting beliefs, and I come across it with my clients and my students. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we all kind of get in our ways sometimes, and we feel like we're our own worst critics. And so I'm delighted that you're
Yeah.
here, Dr. Alexis Noggle, and you're going
Yeah.
to walk us through your presentation and how we can all release these limiting beliefs. So thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I said, so I really want to focus on this topic at this time because as we're going clearing out 2024 and going into 2025, I know everyone's starting to set their goals or resolutions, and there's a lot of stuff that I've been hearing from people in the last few months specifically that just the way they're speaking and everything is very limiting. And we want to make sure we can clear those things so we can bring in the new year in a really positive way. So, first, a little bit about me. Let's see. So, as she said, I'm Dr. Alexis Noggle. I am a chiropractor. I am also a certified functional medicine physician and a neuro-linguistic programming professional. So, I focus more on the root cause of issues. So, when someone comes in, I love to know the why. Why do we think the way we do? Why are we hindering ourselves? Why do we feel how we feel? That's my end goal with every person is help them achieve the best life that they can have, physically and mentally. So I'm originally from Chicago. I lived there 11 years. I then moved to Vegas, where I was there for 29, and now I've been in Georgia for a little over two. I have three elementary school age kids, um, a husband, a dog. So it's I know how much that I appreciate you guys being here because time is one thing you'll never get back. So I hope that you can really take something from today. So thank you again. But what is NLP? Now, I don't know how many of you guys understand or know what NLP is. So it's neuro, so the brain, linguistic, how we speak, and programming. So pretty much our mind map. How does our mind work and how we can reshape it? It's more or less our subconscious. And one of the my best ways of describing it is if you're driving in a car and there's a red light, you see it and you just automatically push the brake. Okay. It's that subconscious underlying thought process that we have. It creates our behavior, our habits, and all of those actually are formed by our beliefs. So our beliefs directly affect everything in our day to day life. It literally creates the map that we have. Okay. So the root cause of our beliefs. There's actually three main influences. Beliefs, first, are something that we inherit from birth. It could be something that we absorb inherently from parents, grandparents, social norms from birth, things that we absorb through our culture, school. But the third one is something a little newer, but it's really influenced a ton is online social media ideologies, things like that, where we kind of compare ourselves to others and we kind of start to form beliefs based on things we see online. So that's kind of a newer one compared to the other two of how we really form our root belief that we have. So beliefs actually create our perception. So they run, like I said, they run automatically in our subconscious brain. And so when we come in a situation, we're going to delete, generalize, or distort it so it fits into the map that we already have. And that creates our perception, which is why we all as a group can be watching something happen, see a movie, a picture, some art, and perceive it differently. It's just the way that we have our map set up. So that means that we can alter that. We can create a new map, new roadways to help us achieve a different perception. But with that being said, we limit ourselves based on the map that we have. Okay. But our limitations are not the actual reality in the world. So the reason why one person can run a marathon versus another is really more or less their perception of if they can. And yes, it could be years in the making, but everyone has most of us have the ability. True, there's some limitations, but really, if we are able, there's no limitation. we limit ourselves. Okay. And that's something that we can alter and change if we really want to. But there's a direct also with our core value. So our values are kindness, generosity, love, whatever that you view or think that is true to yourself. Okay, something that you want to be known as. Now, what happens is we then believe we are these things. And when something goes against that, or we do something that's against that, we now start to have a negative or limiting belief on ourselves. So whether it's we think we're kind, then other people think we're mean, all of a sudden, so maybe we are mean, maybe we're not kind. And then it starts to form this negative thought pattern in our brain. And it creates then us to maybe not talk to other people or experience new things, but really it makes us feel bad. But there is a direct correlation between the how high we hold those values and how bad or limiting we feel. So you can kind of see a correlation. So you kind of know what true values you have based on how bad you feel if you go against them. And that's something that we can work with as well, because you want to make sure they're on the same path, or even if someone says something against what you think, you know what you truly are and believe that in yourself and have that. Okay. But also, the other thing is most of our negative behaviors we do have a positive underlying intent. So we need to realize that although we might be doing something negative, like we are yelling, we yell at our child, right? There's a positive intent behind that. We don't want them to get hurt, or we want to be heard or understood, right? But then there's even deeper layers underneath that. Well, why are we not feeling understood, right? Are we overstressed? And so there's layers to those things, but we need to realize and be kind to ourselves that even a negative behavior has a positive intent underneath it. And so we just have to find that positive intent and then kind of reprogram that so we don't always do that negative behavior all the time. Because that negative behavior is what is really limited, okay, in ourselves. So how can NLP help with all of this? Well, if we change the way we think, we're going to change the way we feel. And when we start changing the way we feel, we're going to start changing our mind map inside. We can literally reprogram and transform ourselves. So when we get into a situation, like I said, we delete, distort, and generalize, but we will do that in a different way to get a different outcome. So every single thing I do when I work with my clients is an outcome base. It's not a goal base, because we want to know what is it that you're trying to ultimately achieve? What are we holding back? What's your underlying everything? And people do that in a few different ways. Some people are auditory, they're kinesthetic or feeling, or they're visual. So whenever you work with somebody, you need to know how is their mind mapped. Are they more visual? Are they more auditory? Or are they more kinesthetic? And there's different techniques based on those things. So with that, I just want to go over two ways. They're kind of easier ways that you can kind of shift how you think. So when you start to move forward, you can alter those things, okay, without getting too deep into the layers. But they're things you can literally start today. So the first one, if you want, it's going to be more auditory. So if you want, you can write it down, or you can just think about it to yourself. I always say that we should and can't all over ourselves. And I hear it all the time, all day. I should do something, or I can't do something. And I say we should and can't all over it. And it is a negative limiting belief, because when we say we should do something or we can't do something, it says it's impossible. It literally tells ourselves that we can't do it. So then we start to feel bad. So most people, I want to say all people, but there might be someone out there who says, I don't have anything like that. But from what my experience is, everyone has something that they think I should do or I can't do. So some examples that I hear a lot is I can't hit my sales numbers, and they might say my boss is too hard on me. They have unrealistic expectations, or, all those fun excuses. I should exercise, but I can't because I'm tired, or I have kids, or, I've tried to lose weight, but I can't. I should stop overthinking, but I can't. And so it just shows that it's negative and it almost seems hopeless when you talk. So if you have something, you can either write it down or say it and kind of feel how that feels, because we all have something that we do. So if you want to take just a minute and see if there's something that comes to mind when you do. All right. And then once you have that, an easy way to right now kind of change that feeling is say, I want to. Because when you want to do something, it gives you hope and it gives you possibility. So I should exercise, but I can't, but I want to. So, like I said, the second you add that want to, you literally give yourself hope and possibility. You open that door to something to say, I might not be able to do it right now, but I can do it and I want to do it. I can't hit my sales numbers, but I want to, right? I should stop overthinking, but I can't, but I want to. So those things literally just starting that. So whenever you start saying that negative sentence, I should do this, or I can't do this, or I should clean my house, just add, but I want to. So even if you don't do it right then, you create that better, more optimistic feeling, because the feeling is what really changes your mindset. It's not just the word. It's really getting that feeling. Okay. So the next one is going to be a little more in depth. Okay. So for all you visual people, this is going to be for you. If you're not a visual person, this is going to be a little more challenging for you. Okay. The one thing I want to say is that all of our beliefs create our habits. They do. They create all of our habits. So whenever you have a good belief, you're going to create good habits. If you have a negative belief, you're going to have a negative habit. And a lot of us don't even quite realize we're doing some of them. So we get into a trigger. So every single time you talk to your mom, you start biting your nails, right? Or every single time you're about to talk in front of your work, you stutter, you get anxious. There's something that causes that negative feeling, right? And then you do a habit. And sometimes you don't even realize what it is. Every single time you walk by a candy bowl, you eat a piece of candy, right? There's something that there's an emotion or a trigger, and then you do this response. But what happens is you've been doing it for so long and you have some underlying belief, right? Which takes a little time to dig into it. Maybe it's a worthiness issue or a safety issue, but you create this now habit. And I'm going to show you, we're going to walk through a visualization so we can start to identify our habits and how we can kind of redirect them. So we're starting to break some of those negative habits at the end of 24. So hopefully going into 25, some of your habits that are maybe not in your best interest can be broken. Okay. So this is going to take a little more time, but I'm going to use an example that's just pretty basic. And some people might have this as something they want to do, and some may not. But I'm going to use the example to walk you through this visualization as whatever the trigger is. So an unwanted thought or behavior. So biting nails. Like I was constantly biting my nails. And normally I might think I'm bored, but really it's anxiety or procrastination. Every single time I have those, I bite my nails. Okay. So if you want to take a second, kind of think if there's something that you do, like I said, whether it's eating, drinking, biting nails, doing something that's smoking, maybe not in your best interest, or a habit that you're constantly doing that maybe you would like to work on. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to sit there and think about what is it when you're in that state of that anxiety, that stressor, what is it that you see right before you do that action? So, every single time I get stressed out, I start to bite my nails, but then I see myself like sitting there bringing my finger to my mouth. So I want you to kind of close your eyes. I want you to feel that trigger and visualize that picture. Visualize that picture of whether it's your hand coming to your mouth, grabbing a glass, grabbing a drink, whatever it is. Okay. And I want you to think about it and say to yourself, is it in color or is it black and white? How big is it? Where do you feel it in your body? How does it make you feel? You know? Okay. Now what I want you to do is turn that picture black and white. So if it was in color, I want you to switch it to black and white. And I want you to shrink it down really small, about the size of a postage stamp, and put it to a corner of your mind. All right, so you can open your eyes now. So when you did that, hopefully you can nod or thumbs up. Did it make you, when you turned it black and white and shrunk it down, did it make you feel a little more relaxed? Not as tense? Okay, good. So now this might be a little harder for some people is I want you to visualize your ideal self, because you don't want to alter one habit with another habit, because you might not be in a situation where you can do that habit at that time you have that trigger. So what is your ideal self? Is it someone who has manicured nails? Is it someone who's well put together? Someone who's well spoken and confident while speaking in public? Is it someone who maybe has lost weight because they're avoiding the candy bowl? What is that? So really take a minute and get clear on what does your ideal self look like? Okay. What does it feel like to be your ideal self? And then where do you feel that? All right, so now I want you to take that picture and just make it small and put it in the opposite corner. Okay, you can open your eyes. How did that feel? Was it more joyful and light? Yeah, okay. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to impose those two. We're gonna mesh them together. So what I want you to do is think of your trigger, whatever caused that anxiety, and that trigger picture. So close your eyes and really envision that. But then in the corner, I want you to see your ideal self small and in that corner. Okay. So you have the big trigger stressor in your ideal self. And what's going to happen is I'm going to say swish, and I want you to take your big trigger picture, turn it black and white and shrink it down. At the same time, you take your ideal self and make it very grand and big. Okay. So you're going to switch those positions. So remember, swish. You're going to take that trigger and shrink it down and make your ideal image really big and grand. Okay. So when you're done, you can open your eyes. And for some people, that takes a little time to really visualize turning one black and white and getting rid of it and making your ideal self bigger. Okay. So we're going to do it again. So this takes a little bit of repetition, okay, because we need to really get your mind to realize that every single time you have this trigger, we're going to think of our ideal self. We're not going to do that habit. So we're going to try it again, okay? So once again, we're going to close our eyes and think of that trigger. And in the corner, you're going to have your ideal self. And once again, when I say swish, you're going to turn that trigger picture black and white, and you're going to move it small into the corner, and you're going to take your ideal image and make it very grand and big, colorful. Okay? So swish. Okay, when you kind of got that, you can open your eyes. So it should have been a little easier. Okay? So we're going to do it again. One more time. Okay? So once again, close your eyes. Envision that trigger, whether it's anxiety, whatever it is, that picture you see, and your ideal image in the corner. Remember, turn it black and white. Other one big, so swish it. All right. So when you're done, you can open your eyes. It should be feeling easier to do each time. So each time that we are going to be switching those pictures, it should become easier and easier to do. So normally this is something that we would do 6 or 7 times in a row, okay? And just kind of go quicker and quicker with it. But what will happen is the more we do it, the harder it will be to really feel that trigger image because we're going to be feeling the state of joy in our ideal self. Okay, so we'll try one more time. Once again, getting that trigger image, that stress, whatever it is, putting your ideal self where you have joy and color and how you want to be. And we're going to switch them. So swish. Okay. So how is that feeling? A little easier? So that's something that you can start to do just to kind of create and start to remap visually how you want to be and change that habit that you have. Okay. Once again, there's always some kind of underlying belief with the habit, but to change the habit, this is a really great technique that works really well with most of my clients to start breaking that habit. But really visualizing your ideal self and constantly doing that swish pattern. And like I said, normally do it 6 or 7 times. It should get faster, easier to do. So then, like I said, when you encounter that stressor, you won't be then triggered to do that behavior. Okay. Is there any questions on that I should ask before?
We've got some good comments from the live audience that we have here on Zoom
Okay.
for this class. And people are sharing some of their limiting beliefs, things like not being good enough at their job, not being able to lose weight,
Mm-hmm.
can't stop smoking,
It's a big
um,
one. Yep.
biting my nails is coming up, which is what you were talking about as the example. And then another one about anxiety, keeping them from doing things that they enjoy, like travel. So really good examples.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of those have some deep whys, right? So that's something where when you work with an NLP professional, we would ask you, obviously when did it start and kind of find out where in the brain they kind of is, right? When did your anxiety start? Why? What is stopping you from traveling? What do you envision, right? And then kind of know what technique would be best. And also underneath it, what is really limiting you? Okay. Is it a fear of abandonment? Is it a lack of love? All of those things that normally go way back because we say, okay, well, what age do you give your belief? Right. And then we're going to say, okay, then we would create a new belief. So, what is a limiting belief that you know that you used to hold as true, but is no longer true? Right. So, for instance, I used to love footy pajamas. I used to love Cocoa Puff cereal. You know, uh, I used to be 2 feet tall. Right? Those are all things that were true that are no longer accurate. Okay, so it takes some time to really work with someone. That's why with doing a broad spectrum with having a large live audience, being one-on-one is easier to find out. Okay, what is your limiting belief? What age is it? Was it look like? Was it feel like? All of those things. But what is a belief that used to be true that's no longer true? And then mesh them to teach yourself that you can have a belief and break free of it. A lot of the times we feel like we can't break free of our belief. We can't, you said stop smoking. The Swish technique actually works really well with a lot of people who smoke, as long as we can see and you can really feel how that would be to quit, right? But there's still some other stuff with that. Same thing with losing weight. There's a reason why you can't, right? And normally that is a limiting belief. And it's something that you self sabotage. Most people, sometimes there is a general medical reason, right? But a lot of times we self sabotage, whether we want to not feel seen or we feel we aren't good enough to look a certain way. And that's where we have to kind of peel back the layers of that onion to find out what is truly underneath there and heal that. Because most of our beliefs are coming from things that is our perception. And a lot of times it's actually happened from something that we had from years ago. So most of the people I work with, they think they're coming in with something A. And as we start peeling back their onion by me just asking, well, why do you think that? Or what would you gain from that? What else would you get from that? It kind of goes back farther and farther and farther. And then you can find the root of what that is. And when we can heal that, that's when those real big beliefs can go through. But what I tell everybody from step one is we need to change how we talk to ourselves first, right? And then start changing our daily habits and then go from there. Because there's a lot of reasons why. And this is the perfect time of year to start assessing what we want our outcomes to be. So if you want to stop biting your nails, you want to lose weight, you want to stop smoking, there's so many tools which we can start just here with these basic ones, the kind of surface ones, to start altering some of those. Okay. So really quick. So achieving your desire. So I'm really big on outcomes. If you kind of notice, I'm not a big fan of goals. Goals don't tell you where you're heading. You need to know where you're trying to go. So everyone I work with, it's what outcome do you want? And normally people tell me, I want to lose 10 pounds. That's great. What outcome is that? You want to lose 10 pounds. Why? Like to be healthier, to look better. Why? I want to save $5,000. Perfect. But for what? Like there has to be an outcome. A lot of times we don't achieve what we really want and we limit ourselves because we don't really know what we're trying to go toward. We have a goal to lose weight, to save money, to stop doing something, but what is the actual purpose behind that? What do we really want? And to become clear on that. And sometimes that's really hard for people. I had someone literally yesterday, it's like, okay, well, what do you want? I want to feel better. Well, what is better? Better than I feel now. But what is that? Right? So a lot of times we have to figure that out first. Once we figure that out, we can set the goal, all right, and create that plan, and then find out what limiting belief has been stopping us from achieving your overall outcome, right? So, like I said, today we kind of went over some things you can start doing that will help just reprogram your brain on a consistent level. So if you do these things consistently over time, it will start to change that math. Okay. Now to get deeper, that takes a lot of peeling back the layers, but outcomes are huge. And the other thing I really wanted to say is invest in yourself is the best return. Being sick and tired and frustrated all the time is hard, but being healthy and happy and successful is hard. I don't just mean monetarily. I mean, take the time to meditate, take the time to think about what do you really want. I know a lot of you guys have written some of your beliefs or things like, I can't do things. Well, then what do you really want that? What is that outcome you're trying to achieve? Going outside and grounding, journaling. There's so many things that you can do to invest in yourself. Time is one thing you'll never get back. So how you spend your time is key. You can spend your time scrolling through social media or spend your time doing a 10-minute meditation. So that's important, okay? If you really want to make really successful life choices, you just have to find out what you're trying to achieve and heal those underlying beliefs, whether you work with someone like Dallisa or myself or any other NLP professional, if you choose to or want to really help unlock those doors so therefore you can achieve those overall outcomes. But like I said, the best investment you can do in yourself is taking the time for yourself. So I really want to drive that home because not enough of us do that. I see it every day. I tell people, take the time, right? And decide what you genuinely want so we can help you break free of those limiting beliefs. But change how you talk to yourself first. Don't should and can't yourself. We should and can't too much. So stop doing that. And then the swish technique. I know Dallisa said the slides are going to be here. Practice that. Practice it. Continue to do so. And you'll start to notice it be harder and harder and harder to find that trigger stressor for that. And that will start to change those habits. Those are little things that you can do starting tonight or tomorrow to implement to create a better outcome. So that's it. Do you have any other questions?
I'm going to take your slides down off the screen. Good job. What you were talking about with the shoulds and can'ts, it reminds me of that quote from Yoda, "Do or do not, there is no try."
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I hear that all the time, and I catch, clients and students that'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'll try to do that." I'm like, there's no try. Like, you either decide that you're going to do it or you're not going to do it.
Mhm.
But all that gray area for me is where I know for myself that's where I can get lost sometimes if I don't anchor into the why. So I'm glad that you were talking about outcomes. I remember years ago, I went to a Tony Robbins event.
Oh,
And one of the things that really stood out to me from being at that event was that he kept asking us what our why was.
yeah.
What are we anchoring into as to why we are going to do it?
Mhm.
Because if your why is strong enough, if it's solid enough, then you will end up doing it. But if it's like, oh, this, that, and the vagueness that you were talking about, then you probably won't do it if it's not connected to that why. So do you see that the stronger that why is for somebody, that the more success they typically have?
Yeah. And the clear and definite they know their outcome. So I spend a lot of time, I actually spend significant more time than I ever thought I would with getting people to understand their outcome. Because once they know their outcome, I can work with them fairly, not say easily, but I've done this enough to know where we can help them achieve that. Like what limiting beliefs we can find, how we can find those is almost easier than helping a lot of people really create what outcome they want, what their why is. Because so many people, they know their goal, right? But they don't know their why, their outcome. What is it that they really want to get from that? Like, I want to lose weight. I get that all the time. I want to lose 10 pounds. Great, me too. But like, why? Like, what would that give you? But I think the difference of how I go about it would be like, what does that look like for you? Right? What would that feel like? Okay. And then I would say, and then we kind of go into your subconscious. So thank your subconscious for bringing that up. Okay. Now, what would that give you? What would you get from that? Okay. And normally, I'm just an example, they might say happiness. Okay. So once you get happiness, ask happiness, what does happiness want? And then they normally sit and it doesn't make sense to them. And then they'll say, you know, like safety. Okay, great. What does safety want? Because there's always that's not a core root thing of peace, wholeness, fully. There's a bunch of stuff that normally comes to, but it's what does that want? And I do that until someone can't, they go, that's it. That's what it is. Like, okay, then that's what it is. We found it, right? Because there's always something, it's not just the 10 pounds, it's the whatever it is. Okay. But once we can find that whatever it is that that outcome is that they want, we can now create their plan. We can get rid of their negative belief. We can create their game plan, their goal of how to achieve that. And then those people who have that clear and defined outcome that they want, or their why, I guess, as Tony Robbins would say, achieve that because there's no block, right? So whether it's money, business, like to achieve their sales numbers, to business to grow, to better relationship with their spouse, like communication, like there's so many things that it goes into. It could be health issues too, to feel better, stop smoking, nail bite, whatever it is, right? It's what outcome, what would that give you? So I spend way more time than I originally thought a long time ago with that. But once we can really get clear on that outcome they're trying to achieve, it actually is smoother.
Hmm. We had one of our Zoom attendees for class share an example of how they used NLP. So they shared that they had trouble losing weight, and they figured out through NLP it was because that they felt protected by being bigger,
Mhm.
because they had been harassed their entire life. And so being bigger, they didn't face that same harassment as much anymore. So then they worked on the self esteem and communication skills so that they could deal with the harassment. And then once that core was discovered and healed, then they shared, I reached my weight goal after that. And so
Yep.
seeing that the weight was part of that protection that we had talked about. Um,
Mhm.
and so once they figured out why they had that layer of protection on, then they were able to get to that core.
Right. And that's where I don't know, who they saw or what they did, but that's where they probably went through and maybe did one of the techniques, like the core transformation technique, where like, what does that give you? What does that feel like? And you kind of go through everything until you find that bottom, right, of it. And then once you kind of work on that, then you heal it, right? And then depending on who they went to, they might even add in what age is that? What age did that happen at? Compared to, okay, well, let's allow that to grow into our current feeling. So let's allow them to feel joy, happiness, peace, whatever we're trying to give it. And then visually allow that you to grow into you now so you can heal it, right? So therefore it won't happen reoccurring. There's other things, to do to make sure that we really connect all the ends, but it goes together, right? But then losing weight makes you healthier, right? Helps with insulin and all the things. So overall, it all goes together.
Mhm. Yeah, very interesting. Our mind is so powerful. There's so many things about the subconscious mind. And I really appreciate you sharing a few of these techniques with us today. I have included your website in the description of the video. And you've been really kind to offer my audience a special code to use if they want to book a session with you and start
Yeah,
getting down in there. And I'm all about self-help, self-care. And if you're even feeling like maybe try it, I would say yes, try it. Try it. I mean,
yeah,
yeah. I've known you for a long time,
yeah.
and I trust your work. And so yeah, so thank you for offering that to
Of
our
course.
audience. And so I've put that in the description below. And we do Zoom classes like this regularly, where you can come and be a part of the backstage audience and
Yeah.
interact with the speakers and ask questions. And so anyone that wants to add themselves to that invite list, they can do that at spiritandspark.com. So Dr. Alexis Noggle, is there anything else that you would like to say before we part ways tonight?
Well, I hope that everyone took something from it today. And I really am grateful you guys took the time out to be here. It's crazy that we're already mid-November of 24. I think hopefully everyone can take something here and really put it into good use in 25 because it's going to be a great year for a lot of us, especially if we kind of don't get our own way.
Absolutely. And tell everybody your website.
Oh, it's therapeutic health, GA for Georgia.com. So yeah,
Beautiful.
therapeutic health, GA.com.
Beautiful. And I've included it below. So go and check out her work. And thank you to everybody joining us here today. We look forward to seeing you next time.